It is mid-July and something has happened to you. You had plans for this summer, things you were going to do, projects you were going to advance, habits you were going to establish. And you have been doing reasonably well until about now, until this particular week. And suddenly, the plans feel very far away. Getting started on anything feels like pushing through something thick and resistant. The morning routine that felt manageable in June now requires a negotiation with yourself that you are not always winning. You sit down to work and find that what used to feel purposeful now feels effortful in a way it should not. And the voice arrives. You know the one. What is wrong with me? Why can't I just do the things I planned to do? Other people seem to manage. I should be able to manage. I want to talk to you about that voice today because it is asking the wrong question entirely. Nothing is wrong with you. Your motivation has not failed. It has responded with completely accuracy to a specific physiological pattern that occurs in the body of a woman over 45 in mid-July. Every year, without exception, it has a mechanism, it has a name, and once you understand it, you will never talk to yourself the same way about this again. July 7th brought 小暑, minor heat. The seasonal heat has officially arrived, and with it, the approach of 初伏, the first of the 3 heat periods that define the most intense stretch of the Chinese summer. In Chinese medicine, this window is characterized by a specific and challenging combination. External heat meeting internal dampness. Let me explain both. External heat is straightforward. The temperature rises. The body works harder to regulate itself. Energy that would otherwise be available for your plans and your work is redirected toward basic thermal management. This alone is enough to reduce functional capacity, but it is the dampness that creates the particular quality of mid-July stagnation that you will recognize. Dampness in TCM is not about rain or humidity, though humid weather certainly worsens it. It is an internal condition, a heaviness and stickiness in the body's fluid metabolism that occurs when the spleen's transforming function is overwhelmed. Think of it as the body's inability to process and move what it is taking in. Food, information, emotion, sensory input, cleanly and efficiently. Things accumulate instead of transforming. Heat and dampness together creates what TCM calls 湿热, damp heat. And damp heat is uniquely obstructive. Heat alone energizes, even agitates. Dampness alone sluggishes and heavies. Together, they create a paradoxical state, a relentless, uncomfortable heaviness, agitated but stuck, wanting to move but unable to generate clean momentum. That is the physiological substate of your missing mid-July motivation. I want to spend a moment on the concept of motivation itself, because I think it has done enormous harm to high-achieving women. In Western professional culture, motivation is framed as psychological resource, something you either have or lack, something you generate through mindset, discipline, or willpower. When motivation disappears, the implicit diagnosis is a character problem. You are not disciplined enough. You're not committed enough. You have let yourself slip. This framework is not only unhelpful, it is factually wrong. Motivation is not a fixed character quality. It is a dynamic physiological state. It depends on the availability of qi, functional energy, which in turn depends on the season, the time of the day, the state of your system, the quality of your sleep, and dozens of other variables that have nothing to do with your character or your commitment. In mid-July, when damp heat is suppressing spleen function and redirecting qi toward thermal management, you have genuinely less functional energy available for volitional activity. This is not metaphor. This is physiology. The women who push through this with sleep, sheer willpower, and many high-achieving women do, because this is what they have been trained to do, pay a price later. The qi they borrow now is subtracted from September. The autumn wall that many professional women hit, that heavy, disproportionate exhaustion in early September, when the new season begins and the calendar fills, is often partially the repayment of mid-July debt. In TCM, the spleen governs what is called si, thought, intention, the quality of mental focus. When spleen qi is strong, thinking is clear, intentions translate into action naturally. The gap between decision and execution is small. When spleen qi is suppressed by damp heat, as it is in mid-July, that translation becomes labored. You can still form intentions. You still want to do the things you planned, but the channel between wanting and doing is congested. The signal arrives, but the response is sluggish. This is what motivation failure actually is in this season. Not a collapse of will, a congestion of the pathway between will and action. And the spleen is also the organ associated with E, the will to act, the intention that moves into the world. When we exhausted the spleen through overwork, overthinking, and pushing through seasonal signals, we are not just tiring the digestive system, we are depleting the very organ responsible for our capacity to initiate. Which means that resting the spleen in mid-July is not giving up. It is protecting the source of your future motivation. I'm not going to tell you to abandon your plans. I'm going to suggest that you calibrate them to what the season actually permits. And in doing so, protect your capacity from the month that follows. First, reduce, do not eliminate. The instinct when motivation drops is often all or nothing. Either force everything through or abandon the plan entirely. Both are seasonal mistakes. The middle path, doing 60% of what you planned with full presence and without self-criticism, preserves spleen qi without creating the guilt spiral that itself further depletes it. Guilt is a spleen emotion in TCM. Ruminating about what you are not doing is literally making the physiological problem worse. Second, move gently and consistently. Vigorous exercise in damp heat further overwhelms the spleen and heart, but complete stillness allows dampness to accumulate. The ideal movement in this window is gentle, consistent, and slightly warming. A daily walk in cooler morning hours, slow stretching, movement that circulates without forcing. Not to burn calories or build fitness, to keep qi moving through the congestion of damp heat. There is a significant difference. Third, eat to support the spleen specifically. In this window, the spleen needs warmth, lightness, and dryness. Cold food and drinks, the instinctive rich in summer heat, actually suppress the spleen's transforming fire and worsen dampness. Cooked rather than raw food. Warmer rather than cold drinks. Foods with gentle drying and moving properties. Beans, barley, ginger used consistently rather than dramatically. Simple, unglamorous, effective. And last, reframe the slow days. This is perhaps the most important practice. When mid-July arrives and momentum drops, instead of the familiar self-interrogation, try this. This is my spleen responding appropriately to damp heat. This is my body conserving qi for September. I am not failing. I am being seasonal. That refrain is not positive thinking. It is accurate thinking, and accurate thinking changes the physiological response. Mid-July is one of the most misunderstood weeks in the professional women's year. We arrive at it with summer plans and summer energy, and somewhere around the 10th or 15th of July, something shifts. The plans feel heavier, the energy feels thinner. The voice of self-criticism arrives right on schedule. Now you have a different story to tell yourself about that shift. It has a mechanism: damp heat, suppressing spleen qi. It has a logic: the body redirecting energy toward thermal management. It has a wisdom: your system is conserving for the depletion still ahead in 大暑. You are not failing July. You are living it in a body that is doing exactly what bodies do when the heat rises and the season turns. Next episode, we reach 大暑, major heat, and the peak of summer's demands on the body. That episode is about understanding the war, not just the approach to it, and about why what you do in that window matters for who you are in September. Until then, be a little gentle with yourself in the mornings, drinking something warm before the cold. Walk before it gets hot. And the next time the motivation disappears, remember what it actually is. Not a failure of character, a message from the season.